and take notes. Okay. So welcome everybody. It's 6:33. We've got, I'm gonna be interrupting myself periodically since I am taking notes. All right, we have a pretty long agenda and I would love to be able to be done by 8:30. I feel like after 2 hours, people's attention spans get a little short and their blood sugar gets a little low, and let's try and keep focused and on point. So a bunch of announcements. We've been with with the new chair and with people's new schedules, we've been making some, not we, the chair, Kathy Diaz, has been making some changes to the composition of various committees. So we're welcoming back Daryl Cochrane, who was a longtime member of this committee and was the assistant chair. He's not coming back as the assistant chair because he is hard at work on the CB12 bylaws task force and is doing a great job there, and that is much needed internal work. So
it's good to be back.
It is good to have you. And I see we've got Allison Shipley, we've got 3 people named Tara Dess who are not able to. Okay. So Paola, can you put in the chat the link for the general public to log on to this meeting? And can everybody who is not Tara, but who is logged on as Tara, log off and log on using the public link?
The other folks who do have my link, at least why I shared it with, are all part of the.
Totally. I 100% understand what happened, and we cannot go backwards. We can only go forward. So going forward, I would like everybody who is logged on as Tara Dess, other than, with the real Tara Dess, please stand up. Would everybody other than Tara who is logged on using Tara's link, please make a note of the public link? Paola, are you able to post that?
Yes, but I just want to make sure there's currently only 2 Tara Dess as panelists, and I understand that both of them are doing a presentation. I
totally hear you. And everybody who should be a panelist, we can elevate to a panelist when they log back on using not Tara's link. So everybody who is logged on as Tara, other than Tara, please make a note of the public link, write it down, log off, log back on using the public link. And if you should be a panelist, let me know your names, write it in the chat, or Tara can tell me, and then we will promote those people to panelists. Does everybody understand that request?
Yes.
Fantastic. If you could do it sooner rather than later, we can proceed with the meeting. Excellent. There are a number of quirks of being on Zoom. This is one of them. So, okay. So anyway, getting back to our committee updates, we've got, we do not yet have quorum. Hopefully, nope, we don't have quorum. Announcements from the last meeting. Our last resolution from January on the 186th Street basketball courts was passed unanimously by the full board with 40 votes in favor and 1 not voting due to conflict. I think we've got someone from NOMA. No, we do not have anyone from NOMA who's logged on right now. So I just want to announce two important updates from NOMA. We've got the Women in the Heights deadline has been extended to February 20th, a week from yesterday at 5 p.m. And of course, there's the Art Stroll poster contest. The deadline for that is April 2nd. You can go to their website, nomaanyc.org, for more information on that. The public scoping meeting for the Lily Brown Playground was last month on the 19th. There was an open online comment period through February 6th. Parks Department had pretty good engagement at that meeting, and fairly robust engagement online afterwards. We'll be getting a proposed design from the Capital Design team later this year in probably the second quarter. So might be May or June, might possibly be September. We don't meet over the summer, so that's always a bit of an X factor. And then hopefully the hopefully there will be approval on that without too many changes, and that project can proceed. Elizabeth Ernish, did somebody already promote Elizabeth Ernish to panelist? Excellent. Ta-da! It's a beautiful thing when it works. Some of you may have read that the mayor's proposed budget is out. Arts, libraries, and parks. Lots of cuts that are proposed. In my note to myself, I just put a little sad frowny face. So I think that, it's really incumbent on all of us as not only board members, but members of the public to engage with our elected officials around advocating for the things that are important to us. Budgets are moral documents, and they say a lot about what are our priorities as a society. So if arts and culture are important to you, and I'm guessing if you are here, they are, then, go out and engage with neighbors and your electeds to try and stave off some of those cuts. I think the last couple of updates, it's not really parks related, but it's recreation related. The walkway on the GW Bridge is now open as of 1 p.m. today. Everybody applaud. I haven't had the chance to go down there and walk on it, but it's an extraordinary view and facility for, not so much public recreation, but public exercise and transportation. So that's the new fully accessible north walkway of the bridge that is now accessible from 180th Street at Cabrini Boulevard. I met last week as part of the advisory group for the Inwood Sacred Sites. That's the Native American and African American, Native American ceremonial pit and African American burial ground at 212th Street and 10th Avenue, where BRC is going to be building a men's shelter. That is proceeding, and it's two separate projects. It's the men's shelter, which is on track and proceeding a little bit more quickly, and the sacred site that is, it's still in design, but they are proceeding on track as two separate projects with different funding through BRC, and it's just really exciting to work with such a thoughtful group of people who really care not only about executing their mission, but also honoring that sacred space and the people who had been interred there. Lastly, there was a lot of community input around the proposed cell phone towers. That's not through this committee, but because there's a little bit of a parks component in as much as one of the towers would really have been an incredible eyesore against an historic landscape over which this committee and this board have really advocated very strongly for many years. There was some question about that in this committee. It's now going through the Traffic and Transportation Committee. The councilwoman has taken, really has gotten very involved in this with OTI, which I think stands for Office of Technology. Help me out here.
And innovation.
Technology and Information, the agency formerly known as Do It. Anyway, I guess the most polite way that I can characterize this process is it's a bit of a hot mess. It's a very small office that did not engage in any kind of transparent or informative way with the community, with the local electeds, with the community board, with anybody. So if you can hear my voice and you are annoyed that you feel like this agency ignored you, please don't yell at the community board as if we were somehow complicit in this. They completely blew us off as well. So the good news is this project has been paused while there is some better community engagement around what towers are being sited where. And there will be information about when those meetings are. And if anybody from the councilwoman's office is on this call, props and thanks to her for really having the community's back on this. So that's it for my updates.
Liz.
Looks like you have quorum now,
Excellent. Who just showed up?
Mancita.
Excellent. Hi,
Yeah.
Mancita. And Daryl, you have a question?
It's just a small correction. I think you
Yes.
referred to the agency as a small agency. It has about 1,200 people, which is 10 times the size of my agency.
I didn't realize I referred to it as a small agency. It's the office that's dealing with the siting. The agency
is
itself is
small.
not small. The group that's dealing with the siting and the community engagement has apparently like 3 people, or so. The agency is not small. The office is, but yes, I absolutely, I was going to say I stand corrected, but I'm sitting down. Yes, you are correct. It is not a small agency. Okay. So Paola, we've got me, Mancita, Daryl, Danny. And who else?
And Domingo.
Domingo. Excellent. How could I forget Domingo? All righty. Next up, we've got programming updates from, oh wait, before we do that, I just want to give people a heads up as to what the agenda for the meeting is. I'm kind of doing too many things at once to share screen. Wait a minute, let me try and share the screen. Just so that people, I always forget to do this. Okay, can everybody see that? Yes, no, thumbs up?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so next up, we'll have programming updates from our cultural and Friends of Parks organizations. We'll call on people in the order in which they raise their hand. Everybody has like 2 minutes to just tell us what's going on with your group or organization. Then we'll have a report from Jennifer Hoppe, who has an outstanding announcement that I did not make because I knew she would be here to make it, but very exciting. Then we have a presentation by NYC EDC on the Academy Street and North Cove waterfront parks. Very excited about that. By the many Taradasses who now all have new names. Then we'll have an update from Avi Gittler and the Audubon Mural Project. We'll have an update from Mike Fiddleson. And I think by that time we will be at or past 8:30. Sound good? Fantastic. We'll end the screen share. I'll shut this. Do we have some raised hands from people? Yes, we've got, first up, we get Julie McCoy. And thank you for sending me your notes. You're on.
Yep, you all hear me? Yay. So hi everyone, I'm Sheila McCoy. I am the Commodore of the Inwood Canoe Club, the oldest continually operating paddle sport club in New York City. Some brief announcements. While it is, we've had some cold weather, maybe not as cold as we would typically see. We do have some of our members have been out paddling in the appropriate gear for the cold water. We are also doing some maintenance and conducting some inventory of our boats and equipment to get everything ready for the 2023 season. We have an activities and membership committees who are both planning various activities. We're going to continue something we started last year, which is to have on land activities, which we can start, before the water would typically be warm enough for things to happen. We do have something planned with Word Up Community Bookshop on March 11th. We will be co-hosting an onshore shoreline cleanup or on land shoreline cleanup, and would love to be joined by any of our uptown neighbors. There is a sign-up link, which Liz is in the email that Francis sent to you. If I need to post it here, please tell me.
Yes, please do.
Okay, I will copy that and post in a sec. And we are looking for suggestions on partnerships and programs. We both youth programs or other kinds of programs. If you have an organization you would like to get in touch with us, just email inwoodcanoe@gmail.com. Lastly, Uptown Paddling, which is our nonprofit affiliate, is also looking for community partners for what we're calling single session youth paddling camps. We can't run a day camp or an away camp, but if you have a youth group that would like to include paddle sport as part of your programming, we would be happy to oblige. For that, you can email uptownpaddling@gmail.com. I'll put both of these email addresses in the chat. And lastly, we do want to say we are very grateful to Councilmember Carmen De La Rosa for providing a discretionary grant funding Uptown Paddling's community outreach.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Perfect timing. Oops, sorry, how do we get this to stop? Excellent, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And again, if you can put your contact information in the chat, which is now enabled. We used to only have Q&A. Now we have chat that I believe everybody can see. That would be great. Next up, Catherine Hughes from the Morris Jamel Mansion.
Hi, thanks, Liz. Yes, some of you in the Morris Jamel neighborhood have probably noticed that we have been closed. The park and the mansion have been closed for the past 2.5 weeks because one of the columns in the front of the house threatened to come down. So we have been in an emergency repair situation. And we are happy to report that temporary measure that we needed to have done to put up a structural tower has been done. And tomorrow the column is going to come down and we are going to be able to open. So we're really, really happy about that. So both the park and the mansion will be open as of Thursday of this week. And this all connects to the restoration that we have planned to begin in the fall. So this just really folds into the entire renovation. This is an exterior renovation. So we're talking about taking care of all of the deterioration of wood on the outside, painting, fixing windows, the roof, and we are also adding we're having a ramp, an ADA accessible ramp on the back of the mansion, and we are also going to improve our bathrooms to be ADA accessible. So this is all going to be happening in the fall. Neighbors will notice lots and lots more happening at that time. But we're really trying to work hard with the Historic House Trust and Parks to be able to, be open as much as possible through that period. So that is what is happening for us. In general, we are very happy to know that we'll be able to have a schedule of outside concerts, even with the situation on the front of the mansion. So we're going to be able to do things. It just might not be as pretty in the temporary.
Cool, thank you. And if you don't mind sending me just a quick, couple sentence summary of that, it makes my life a little bit easier in terms
Sure.
of the minutes. Do we have other hands for, we've got Nate Harris.
Hi, Liz. I just wondered if you could make me a panelist. I'm with the Academy Street group. I put it in the chat.
Got it. The Academy.
Okay.
The
Thank you so
Academy
much.
Street group. You mean the EDC presentation?
Yes.
Got it. That's why I didn't understand. There we go. It's a little bit like a Harry Potter experience when you apparate going from not a panelist to a panelist. It's a little disorienting. Anybody else going once, going twice? All right.
Can you add Jennifer Stacy as well?
You want me to?
Add who?
Jennifer,
I got it.
Jen
Thank you.
Stacy?
thank you.
Okay. Right, that wasn't my question. My question is there anybody else from a cultural organization or friends of group? Well, you always go last. So before I call on you, I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so going once, going twice. Next up, we have Jennifer Hoppa, who will give some programming announcements and then her brief capital report.
Okay, thanks, Liz. And am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay, happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Thanks.
Just some fun upcoming programs that are around the school break, since not everybody's going away. The Urban Park Rangers are having a Bald Eagle Watch on this Saturday at 9 a.m. at Payson Park House. Also this Saturday, the Urban Park Rangers are having a Highbridge Water Tower tour. That's from 1 to 3. You enter Highbridge Park at 174th in Amsterdam. If you haven't done it yet, you really need to do it. It's incredible, the views, the Palisades, the cloisters, Midtown Manhattan, Bronx, New Jersey, beyond. It's really, really wonderful. And it's quite a workout. The Rangers are having a geology hike for kids during school break, Tuesday, the 21st at 1 p.m. at Seaman and Isham. At Highbridge Park, they're going to have a nature puppet show on Wednesday, the 22nd at 1 p.m. And then they're going to have an urban wildlife workshop for kids Thursday, the 23rd at 1. We are going to be having a geology walk in Highbridge Park for adults Saturday, the 26th at 1 p.m. It starts at 165th Street and Edgecombe Avenue. There's incredible geology in Highbridge Park. And if you've never explored the 103 acres of forest there, this is a great chance to be introduced to it. And on the 18th, the Fort Tryon Park Trust is having the storytelling nature walk with storyteller Rachel Harrington. That's Saturday at 1 at Broadway and Arden entrance to Fort Tryon Park. It's primarily in the Alpine Garden and environs and helping kids develop stories based on the geology and the fauna there, flora. And very fun, this Thursday and next Thursday from 6 to 8, the Art Students League is going to have some art workshops with fabric at the Highbridge Recreation Center, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I can put the RSVP in the chat or in the comments. And last but not least, mark your calendars. The New York City Parks Department is having its first job fair at Highbridge Rec Saturday, March 4th from 12 to 4 p.m. And that's learning about positions that are in recreation, maintenance and operations enforcement, and more. And we also are going to have representatives from FDNY, DCAS, and MTA. So great local job fair for learning how to get involved in city service as your career. I mentioned last month, recreation center hours are expanded at Highbridge Recreation Center. There's a lot of pickleball at Highbridge Recreation Center. We are encountering lots of demand, and a lot of people don't want to share their facilities, their multi-purpose play areas, or their tennis courts for pickleball. This is dedicated pickleball, probably about 5 or 6 times a week at Highbridge Recreation Center. And that's all on the Parks Department's website, nyc.gov/parks. So lots of programs free to take advantage of, to learn more, to grow and have fun in our parks uptown. One big announcement is this committee in particular, and as well as area residents and participatory budget processes, have highlighted the need to repair the path behind Fort Tryon's Ann Loftus Playground that goes up from Ann Loftus all the way up to the cloisters. We were unable to do it during the most recent capital construction project because Ann Loftus was under construction. But the great news is Senator Robert Jackson has allocated $850,000 for this path to be reconstructed and for drainage to be improved, since we kind of have an ongoing stream there. So we're really excited about that. It's a long time coming, and just aligned with the senator's CREST application, Community Resource Environment Sustainability grant program. We already went over Roger Morris Park will be reopening soon. And we're glad that the engineering firm is being brought on and the shoring up is going to happen. Just to add on to what Liz said about Lily Brown Playground, we're going to have another public input session in Spanish at the end of this month. We had a lot of people express their desire for a meeting to be in Spanish. So our design division is going to be working with an interpreter and the council member's office to have that probably the last week in March.
Great. Sorry to interrupt, but Ramon Toribio, I see that you are on this call. If you can please, or you were on this call, if you can put your contact information. He was just here before. Do you have Ramon's contact information?
I'm sure I can get it from Sean's office.
Okay, I'm
I
gonna.
know he had been in
I
contact.
have it, Liz. I'll shoot it to you tomorrow, okay? Just
Okay.
remind me in case I forget. All right.
Great, if you
Thank
can
you,
shoot it
Paola.
to me and to Jennifer.
Jennifer, no problem. I'll do that,
Talking
lady.
about this
Okay.
just yesterday. That would be great. Thank you.
No problem.
And we have a lot of capital projects about to start pending good bids, including Bennett Park, the central lawn as the tufted nylon gathering area, and the new plantings, the Dykeman Playground, Dykeman Rest Playground, among others. And in the interest of an extra long agenda and that it's Valentine's Day, if there's anything else. Oh, one other big announcement. There's a new head of the Historic House Trust.
Right?
And it's our very own Meredith Soren, who has been leading the Dykeman Farmhouse, I guess, for about the past 8 years, who's done a phenomenal job in terms of outreach, diversifying offerings there, leveraging a pretty significant capital investment. And she's been tapped to lead the umbrella organization for all of the historic houses in New York City, which is
Fantastic.
really exciting. Yeah, so we're
That's really
so
great.
proud and pleased, and she's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, Catherine, I don't know if you know Meredith. I imagine you've worked with her a little bit virtually. But
Virtually, yes.
she's
And
she's a gift and you're in really good hands.
we're excited.
Yeah, this is great news. Excellent. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for that report. If, again, if you could do me a favor. And
I'm
just-
emailing it to you now.
You are the best. Okay, so we are remarkably on time. I love it when that happens. So next up, we've got all the nice people from New York City Economic Development Corporation, NYCEDC. So one of the
Liz, could questions be
Oh,
asked?
I am so sorry. Yes. Before we move on to that, I see that you did have your hand up. My bad. Domingo, you had a question for Jennifer?
Yes, Jennifer, I just have a question around for the rec center. Is it also cool to include potential how many participants the rec center is seeing on a monthly basis, just to make sure that how engagement is going and people actually use the space?
I don't know if it's public information, but if you have a group that or you want to bring a program there, I'd be more than
No, it's more around like trying to see, because like for instance, I got PAL was talking about difficulties actually engaging youth, and I was just interested in seeing if this is a happening across the district or just in particular areas.
Well, the Hybrid Rec Center isn't just focused on youth, but I'm more than happy to connect you to Trevor Merck. He's the center manager, and he can speak about what current youth programs are being offered, get your input on, how to link youth to what they're already doing. And
Right.
but
Thank you.
I don't know that they have everything broken down by youth numbers.
That is a great question, and that is a helpful response. Do you have each other's contact information?
Yeah, I'll just follow up. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, so now we've got the NYC EDC. So by way of introduction, as I think everybody on this call knows, there's been a lot of money that's been poured into this community through the Inwood rezoning. And this is one of the projects related to that funding. This committee and this board has been really active in trying to advocate for preservation and enhancement of open spaces, making sure that they are integrated into existing open spaces and that they're designed in a way that makes it clear that they're available, that they are public spaces and available to everybody. So we've been having parts of this conversation for a really long time, and I am really excited to hear what Fernando and Tara and everybody on the team have to say about this project. I do want to say that this is the beginning of a planning process, and originally I had thought that this might be a reso item, so I had put out the agenda saying, reso item ? This is not a reso item. This is the introduction of what's going to be happening and the introduction of a series of public engagement opportunities, and not a reso item. Yes, some discussion, but we don't need to come to a set conclusion at the end of this meeting. Fernando, take it away.
Good evening. Hello, Liz and CB12. Always great to see you all. I mean, Liz kind of took my speech, but I'll just say, I'm accompanied here this evening by some of my colleagues at EDC and our consultant QRP, who I'll let introduce themselves. But kind of, as Liz already noted, we want to we're gearing up to start some community engagement before we go into pre-design around these two new waterfront spaces that we're very excited to bring to Inwood. That was, committed through the Inwood rezoning. And so before that, we wanted to just kind of brief the community board on what the project is, the sites, what's within the scope of these projects, kind of all the details, and also share out some upcoming dates that we have around community engagement. So we'll get more into the details in the presentation, but we're planning an info session in the month of March. And so we wanted to get buy-in from CB12 around the project and, what stakeholders we should be engaging, how we should be engaging, etc. So for those that don't know me, I'm Fernando Ortiz. I am the Upper Manhattan and Bronx Borough Director for EDC in our Government and Community Relations team. And I am accompanied by my colleague, Tara. Tara, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, the infamous Tara of the night.
Well, the real Tara Das, please.
I am everywhere. Hi, I'm Tara Das. I'm also with the Government and Community Relations team, and I work with our transportation portfolio as well as our greenways and green spaces portfolio as well. We also have Seema and Jennifer from EDC as well on the call to answer any questions.
Just a quick question. I see that you've got a deck queued up. If it would be possible for somebody to email that to me, because it will make my note taking so much easier, and then I can just kind of pay attention and not be furiously scribbling.
Absolutely.
I mean, not that I would be paying attention in either case, but.
Liz, do you want us to email that to you now or after the meeting?
Oh, after the meeting's fine.
Okay, no problem.
Awesome. Seema and Jennifer, I don't know if you want to quickly introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Seema Malik. I'm from the Capital Group at EDC, and I'll be managing the day-to-day on these projects.
Good evening, everyone. Jen Stacy. I'm a VP in the Capital Program at EDC. And then I also want to make sure we introduced Liz Ernish, who is our Parks counterpoint on the project. And Liz, I believe you're on as well.
Oh, you're muted, Elizabeth. We can't hear you. Oh, can't hear you for some reason.
Seems like Elizabeth Ernish is having some issues with her audio, but as you'll see on the presentation, this is a joint, EDC is managing this project on behalf of New York City Parks. So these sites, fall within the jurisdiction of Parks. So we wanted to, you'll be seeing EDC and Parks jointly, involved in this project.
All right, should I start with the presentation?
Do you want to introduce yourself, Alison?
Yeah, sure I will. So, hi, I'm Alison Shipley. I'm a partner at Quinnell Rothschild and Partners. We're landscape architects hired by EDC for the design work of this project. I'm also joined by my partner, Beth Franz, who's on the call, and Senior Associate Nate Harris, who's also, so we'll all be working on this project. So, as Fernando had said, this is really just an introduction to the project to kind of brief the community board and let you know about us starting on the community outreach portion of the site. So I think, you're all familiar with the two sites that we're looking at, the Academy Street site here at 201st and 10th Avenue south of the Con Ed building on the waterfront of Sherman Creek Inlet, and the North Cove site above the University Heights Bridge at 207th and 9th Avenue, just below the MTA rail yards. So as Fernando said, we're very aware that, many of you have already provided a significant amount of input towards these projects through the inward rezoning, through the inward action plan. We wanted to emphasize that this project is a design and construction project, and based on the community input and the work we do over the next year, this is going to lead to a design and build project where these two new parks will be built by the fall of 2027. So we hope that you're excited as we are to really start the process of moving beyond the action plans and the zoning plans and all the reports and work that you've done in the past to a real plan that's going to be built. And that will start with our community engagement. And we just wanted to, let you know that we at Cornell Rothschild are very familiar with doing public engagement with city projects. We work a lot with New York City Parks and DDC, as well as this project with EDC. We will be doing online events as well as in-person events. This is a fairly recent in-person event with me up in the Bronx getting community input. And below here is a screenshot from some Zoom engagements that we did for a large Greenway project where we had over 300 online participants for those meetings, plus probably another 100 from in-person events. So just to kind of remind you of the sites themselves, on the Academy Street side, you see the site here. It includes the portion of Academy Street that's currently in the demapping process, as well as this strip to the south, waterfront, which is Park's property. So the new park will extend from 10th Avenue to the waterfront up to the edge of the Con Ed property, and then will eventually link to new greenways to be developed to the north. This is, as you can see, the entrance looking east from 10th Avenue. This is the closed off road of Academy Street that was until fairly recently being used by Con Ed. This view is from the waterfront looking towards the Bronx, and then a view from the Sherman Creek looking across the cove to the site. So, the site has incredible potential for waterfront recreation. And we think this will really be able to bring amenities to the neighborhood that aren't present in many of the existing neighborhood parks. So this will really be a chance to have something different. And that's why we feel that the community input is so important, to find out what the community really wants to see in this site. On the North Cove site, much smaller site, kind of quieter in some ways in that it's not so close to the main thoroughfares. Again, includes a portion of a demapped street. This would be where 9th Avenue kind of wraps around the corner, plus the Cove area. And then, as you're, I'm sure, aware, Mad Equities is building the large sort of housing project directly to the south of that. So this site has a parking lot which is now closed off due to the Mad Equities project. And, we know that there's been a lot of previous community work cleaning that up, maybe led mostly by Jim Cataldi, but with many other community volunteers who did take this site that was really had been a dumping ground and made it somewhat safer for people to use. But of course, with basically no money, there's a limit to what they were able to do. And we now have around $7 million to do construction work on this site and really clean it up and provide facilities for the neighborhood. Looking at those two sites as well, we're sort of looking at the history of the site, the flooding and other things that we will be aware of in our design. Of course, we'll be building in resiliency features into the design, possibly raising the elevations of some of the site areas to make these sites more resilient against sea level rise and flooding in the future. Looking at the timeline, so as Fernando said, we really are at the very beginning of this project. We did meet with Councilmember De La Rosa a few weeks ago, and then last week with some of the other elected officials to get them on board with this and help in scheduling some of the community outreach. So basically, starting in a few weeks, we will be planning a major sort of online input session. So if any of you can help to get the word out, we will be sending invites where we will be posting flyers with links to the meetings. And then we intend to do a couple of in-person events for instance, at the Dykeman Houses Senior Center, and maybe a couple of other local events, maybe an outdoor tabling event too. after we get that input, maybe by the beginning of April, we will then sort of tabulate those results and see what it is with the wish list and present that back to you, to Parks, to EDC, and to the elected officials so that everybody's aware of what that input is. Based on that, we will develop some initial design concepts, which are going to be really conceptual, like what we would call bubble diagrams or something like that, with some options, and present that back to you, to the community board, before you go on your summer break. So we would intend to do that at hopefully the end of May or beginning of June, so that we can get your feedback on those options. And then over the summer, we'll develop whatever the preferred option is into a real schematic plan, and we'll be looking for approval on that more developed plan in the fall of this year, and then go to PDC for their approval, and obviously all the other agencies, and based on that start to develop the construction documents, finish the design by, we would say, you know, the end of 2024, get the approvals from all the many reviewing agencies, and we expect to start construction in the fall of 2025 with a 2-year construction period. So that's where we are at the moment. Tara will be, you know, the person answering all your questions. She'll be the point of contact. We have prepared a couple of flyers that are just at the moment drafts, looking for your input. So these are mock-ups of the flyers that we would post for the initial community engagement meeting. So we have in English and Spanish. Basically, we've scheduled a time, March 15th, which is like a month away, in the evening. If there's some major conflict with some other local event, that would be good to know. We still have time to change that date. So that's it for our presentation. We'd love to hear your feedback. If you have any suggestions on other people we should be reaching out to, or, you know, your feelings about how you could help us get the most out of the community engagement process. Thank you.
Great. I love this. I'll call on people in just a second. First of all, I really appreciate that you have done the scheduling with community boards break in mind. I can't tell you how many times we've had people say, well, you know, we're going to present in August, and we're like, we don't meet in August, and it starts things off on bad footing. So I really appreciate that you are working with our schedule and mindful of that. I feel like that just feels different and sets a great tone. So I love that, and thank you. This committee meets on the second Tuesday of the month. So I would say, consistent with your time frame of the end of May, beginning of June, I would suggest you kind of pencil in that June 14th date. And I can make a note that we would be having this hopefully as an agenda item. And one of the things that you might want to do, if your scheduling permits, is come to the general meeting, which are meetings, I don't know if they'll be fully virtual or if they'll be hybrid, but you will have the ability to zoom in and just talk for 2 minutes during the public session to say, hey, EDC, QRP here, we're going to be making a presentation of, you know, following this community engagement and what have you. We're going to be making a presentation at the Parks Committee in June, because the general meetings tend to be extremely well attended.
Right.
So I think that will help to get the word out. As soon as you have final versions of the flyers, that would be great if you can send them to the board. I would suggest, if you can, I love that there's a QR code, but that the part in the middle where it has the date and the time, I would suggest a slightly darker color and a slightly bigger font.
Okay.
usually I like putting the year on, but since the year is elsewhere in smaller type, I think if you remove the year where it is in
Sure.
yellow, it'll give you enough lateral space that you can bump up the font, and you can decrease the leading, and you don't need to have so much space between the lines, and that'll just make it more readable from a distance. And if you can send those graphics both as PDFs and as JPEGs, PDFs are better for emailing, JPEGs are better for posting on socials. And then last thing is, if by any chance you've got interns or local staff or somebody who can really flyer up the neighborhood, I think that will help with community engagement.
Right,
And-
we're hoping that our parks partners and Partnership for Parks will be involved in doing the
And-
flyers. Yeah,
and
Then
I'll-
you'll probably also want to talk to the folks at NYRP, Riley Levin
Right.
Children's Garden.
right.
that will-
They're
I
aware
also-
of, they
I
are
wanna-
aware of it and have offered to help us as well, yeah.
And-
NYRP.
The council member, Carmen De La Rosa, has also, we briefed the local electeds on this project as well. And, the council member in particular is very enthusiastic and has offered to help us, flyering, co-hosting events. Her office wants to be very involved. So we can work with her office and other organizations to flyer, a week or so leading up to the event.
Okay, so the last thing before I call on folks who have raised hands is one of the things that the council member did around the West 186th Street basketball project was her staff worked with a local business that had Wi-Fi, and they had like a satellite meeting.
We heard about that in the barber shop, right?
Yeah, in the barber shop. It was amazing. And so it occurs to me, not everybody has Zoom or has enough bandwidth in their Wi-Fi or mobile data to support streaming a meeting. So it may be helpful if you can possibly work with Miriam James. She works in the senior center at the Dykeman Houses, and she is a member of Community Board 12. She's not on this committee, but she's a member of the board. So we've used that senior center as a meeting location pre-COVID when we were having meetings to talk about the Monsignor Kett playground and basketball courts renovation. And we had representation from folks at the Dykeman Houses who do not usually come to these meetings. And that is a major segment of the people who are going to care about these projects and may not know, like, what is a community board? So if you can possibly work with Miriam and with the folks at NYCHA to have a satellite meeting venue on the 15th, I think that'll really bump up your community engagement. And lastly is to really talk to some of those businesses, Flair Beverage and the kitchen, LeBron Kitchen Supply, the Compare Foods, there are a bunch of, and the church, the Bible Church School on 206th Street. They also really represent St. Jude's as well.
Yeah, Manhattan Bible.
Great idea.
Manhattan
Yeah,
Bible Church, right.
thank you.
Yes, thank you. Daryl.
Yes, hi, thank you. And I will just say I did notice that working around the community board schedule thing as well. So and it was very refreshing to see. Would you mind going back a slide?
To this one?
That one, yes, thank you. I had two questions. One about this, and maybe you could dive deeper into a couple areas. There were two where it says develop construction documents, apply for all necessary permits from winter 23 to winter 24, as well as the construction starting in the fall 25, going for 2 years. Those seem a little long. I was wondering if you could maybe, talk a little bit more in detail about those.
Well, working with the city agencies, EDC and parks, there's many reviews that we have to go through. So after we start the construction document phase, which is preparing, I mean, these are going to be fairly complicated design projects with a lot of technical waterfront edges, those sort of things. We need to go back to Parks Department at various stages in the design, like 50%, 80%, 90%, get their buy-in on each of those stages. So that tends to take a little bit of time. Then we have to get permits from, agencies such as DEP, Army Corps of Engineers, DEC, the Department of Environmental Conservation. Those permits take quite a long time, maybe 6 months to get some of those permits. SBS reviews the waterfront projects for the building department in New York City. They can be incredibly slow. So that in itself, could easily take 6 months just to get the permits. And then once the project is approved and goes out to bid with Parks Department, they then register the contract, which again could take easily 6 months, 9 months just to register those construction contracts. So there's kind of many, I wouldn't say roadblocks, but like steps or processes that we have to go through before you get to actually starting construction. And it's typical in a city project, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Thank you. And it does seem like maybe some elected officials should tackle streamlining at some point down the road too.
I think there's been attempts, but I mean, sometimes, to be honest, it literally comes down to one person in one agency who's just not on board or something, or they don't understand something, and they could just cause serious delays. So we're sort of building that into the timeline there.
And just to remind everyone that parks didn't create this process. It was all, legislation. So Department of Investigation, the Mayor's Office of Contracts, the Controller's Office, the City's Office of Management and Budget, they all have their say. So
yeah, the more acronyms, the longer it takes, really.
And also, I mean, yes, this is a highly bureaucratic process, and it's a bummer that it takes this long. But one of the things that I really appreciate is you're really clear about that going in, and you're not doing some kind of optimistic, like, oh yeah, it's going to take 6 months and whatever. Like, this is what it is. And you are building it in up front, and we are talking about it publicly so that it is very clear, A, this is going to take a while, B, this is why it's going to take a while. And I think that, I just think that's helpful, and I appreciate that.
And my other question was regarding, because there are two different projects in one here.
Right.
And from your presentation, it sounds like they're both moving forward simultaneously. Will, and again, this goes back to the timeline. Could one, like the smaller one, be done a little earlier so people in the summer of 27 could enjoy that? I don't know, but
I think, Daryl, that is what, once we get closer to the end of the project, at the end of design, like at the moment, we're not really sure, are they going to bid this as one project? Probably. But if for some reason, I mean, there is separate amounts of money. You can see up here, we have 7.5 million for North Cove and 28 million for the Academy Street project because of the level of complexity of the waterfront there. So on other parks projects that we work on, sometimes they do get split up. So I can't answer that question at the moment, but in a year we may know more about that. At the moment, we're considering it as one project on two different sites, but going together on one track. So
yeah, and in terms of the community engagement, it makes sense for it to be one project. But to Daryl's point, if you can keep in mind that to the extent that once the community engagement piece has been completed and it's clear what the community priorities are, if at some point it turns out that they can be constructed on not entirely parallel timelines, somewhat in series rather than in parallel, whether they're bid as two separate projects or not, such that one of them is done sooner, that would be nice. It may or may not wind up being practical. There may be, sort of economies of whatever. It's kind of an unanswerable question right now, but I think that Derek's point is extremely well taken.
Yeah, it is a good point. I think if they were bid together and you had a single contractor, they would want to do all the excavation both places, lay all their pipes both places, rather than do excavation, pipes, paving, everything, planting, and then come back and start all over again, because they want to keep whatever separate trades they have working as efficiently as possible. So it really depends how it ends up being bid, and that actually isn't something that we'd kind of thought about yet. So
cool.
And just to Liz's point, also as a practical matter, if you're saying it's not being done until the fall of 2027 because it's a park, it's outdoors, people aren't really fully enjoying it until the spring of 28, in full.
I don't know.
One would
Look
argue.
at Elizabeth Ernest's background. That's winter. We enjoy, come on, man. We enjoy our
I'll go out there, but
year-round.
I mean,
Anyway, in the interest, I want to move the agenda. So let's, I think Fernando had something to say, and then I want to call on Bob Barnett, who's patiently had his virtual hand raised for a little while.
No, I was just gonna add, that again, we wanted to just make sure that we're kind of, as you mentioned, Liz and Daryl, like this is the current project timeline. If there are ways in which it can be shortened, pleasant surprise throughout the process, but we wanted to just give people, what this is what it is right now, and kind of set that expectation. And if we can provide pleasant surprises along the way, then we'll definitely do that. And as mentioned, we have the info session happening on the 15th, and then we're scheduling dates for both in person and Zoom, more formal visioning sessions. So we'll keep you posted on those as well.
Great, thank you. Bob Barnett.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, Alison and Fernando, I want to thank you for this. First of all, because it saves me an email to Fernando that I was going to send him anyway, like, what's happening with the listening session? So now I've got the answer. I'm with Harlem River Community Rowing. So I have shall we say, a little bit of an agenda here. So my question is particularly with Academy Street, is there consideration of water access, not simply a waterfront promenade to look at the water? Is that in consideration, or at least open to consideration?
It's open to consideration. The new boathouse is starting construction in the Sherman Cove side. That's going to be right next door to the Academy Street project. There's certain issues with providing like boating access in this location. It would significantly.
While you're answering this question, can you just go back to that slide that shows?
Yes, please.
That shows the plan, or which one would you like?
The one that shows both of the projects that would be, that one.
Right. Thanks. So you've got the new boathouse being constructed down here. We have to, as I mentioned, there's a lot of permitting involved in this. And one of the issues with DEC and Army Corps, Department of State too, is that anything that extends out into the water, that's considered fill. And in order to permit for that, you would have to provide mitigation. Mitigation would be basically taking away some land to make up for the land that you build out into the water. Our site is very narrow, so there's potential problems with sort of like, for instance, building a ramp down into the water, building any kind of docks. We're not ruling this out right now, but I'm just sort of letting you know that there's some potential issues along here. There is waterfront access at some of the street end parks at, I think, 202nd Street. And as this greenway gets eventually developed, there may be some waterfront access in there. But
just to give you some feedback, you know that there was a history of rowing from this location from the mid-70s to the mid-90s, in which there was a storage facility on the property of what was then the decommissioned Con Edison plant. So they did on the Harlem River side, not the Sherman Creek side, they had a series of docks that they used. So there is a history going back. And of course, you know, the history of the whole area had up to 50 boathouses at one point. So I'm just putting that in context. Also, to understand is that the Row New York Boathouse is primarily going to be a facility for youth rowing. It is now currently not proposed as providing a program for adult rowing, which does limit the capabilities. The one advantage,
not entirely true, Bob. They do have a program for veterans.
they have veterans, yes.
Yeah, adults, but to your point of general adult access, such as your organization provides, you are correct. There's not a lot of that. Built in.
I think, you know, obviously what comes out of the community input will inform this, and we will look for, but of course, when you get community input, there's always like competing ideas, and we do have to balance things, you know, with, and I know that organized groups such as Row New York or other organized groups can often, you know, maybe I don't want to say push their agenda, but we want to make sure that everybody's voice is heard. So we take your point, and we understand that there is a desire for water access and for rowing, but we'll also equally be listening to everybody else. But certainly, I mean, I don't see there's no real negatives to having water access. It's just how that interacts with other things, natural features we might want to do. Fishing is obviously going to be something that's popular as well. So water access and fishing are a little bit in conflict with each other. There could obviously be different areas that those things are happening, but we'll take all of the suggestions into account.
A couple last questions. I'll be very quick. I'm sorry. Is there any concept of a theming of let's say Academy Street, given the fact of climate impact, whether there may be?
I missed what you said. Theming
of the park, you know, in terms of let's say using it as a representational, as for informational, or as a conceptual. I'm just saying conceptually, using it as a, I don't want to say test example, but just simply a theming of an awareness of this as being an island, and the very fact that we are a water-based society and climate change is impacting us. You notice from the examples you already gave. That's, I mean, this is a thought.
Yes. Well, from our point of view as landscape architects, we're very, very aware of climate change, and we would want to do everything we can to improve the habitat, provide new habitat, stabilize the shoreline. So all of those things are in the forefront of our mind when we're approaching the design. We haven't started the design process, but again, you know, listening to what people want, we would probably try to balance those desires for sort of natural features and habitat restoration with the recreational features, water access, fishing access. I mean, possibly people want to do events, but, you know, so I think there's probably going to be conflicting desires between sort of a more paved and program heavy space versus a softer and more natural space that might reflect some of those themes that you're talking about.
Great,
Then
okay.
the last, just a very, very quick, is you may also want to do a site inspection on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, early evening at the park further down where Peter J. Sharp Boathouse is now, because
Swindler's Cove, right?
Yeah, that is a hub of activity, recreational activity for Dykeman houses. And that is probably something of a model of how they would want that, the other part used.
You
may have already thought of it.
Yeah, well, sure, for sure. Yeah, we've been in contact with the people who, with NYRP and the folks who manage that park. And so we've, had tours with them. We know what they're doing, and we'll definitely continue that dialogue with them as we go forward. And visiting the park on the weekend there and seeing what's happening is a great idea. We've been there a few different times and seen some of the activities going on. But
Right.
yeah, thanks for your input.
I think to Bob's point, it's not just NYRP, but also making sure that there's really, really robust input from the Dykeman houses.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we see them as our almost like our most important, input group. They're literally next door to the site. This is their front yard across the street.
Yes.
So
and
yeah,
yet they often, despite being proximate to the site, they often are not as engaged. And there are times that organizations purport to speak for them rather than allowing them to speak for themselves. So, engaging, it's great to engage with, with parks, with NYRP, with the community board, with, the local businesses, and also making sure that you are getting into the Dykeman houses, working with, whoever at NYCHA and
Yeah, and I think,
well, we are, as I mentioned, we were planning to schedule an in-person meeting at the senior center at Dykeman houses. We haven't arranged that yet, but definitely on our list.
And before I get to you, Fernando, I just want to say that Steve corrected me that when Parks did the scoping meeting for Monsignor Kett Playground, they used the Dykeman Community Center, which is run by Alianza and Catholic Charities. It's a little bit bigger than the senior center. I mean, you should still by all means engage with Miriam and the folks at the senior center, but in terms of a physical space, the Dykeman Community Center run by Alianza and the Catholic Charities.
Hey Liz, just a correction. Catholic Charities is actually not running it anymore. Is Children's Arts and Science is the new organization that took over that.
Gotcha. I didn't think it was possible for me to be this wrong on the same point. But
can you say that again? Who was it? Children's Arts and what?
I believe it's called. Yes. Thank you. CASW, I think it is, Liz.
Okay, if Domingo, if you have contact information for them, if you can send it to me so that I can pass it on to Fernando, that would be great. Because again, this is a really long timeline, and there's such a long timeline. We have enough time to make sure that we're really doing good community engagement.
Yeah, the director is my friend. I got you, Liz. I'll send you over his contact.
Fantastic. I love this. Fernando, you got a point or a question or a clarification?
Yeah, to the point of the theme, the question that Bob asked around theme, I think that, that point that you made, usually when we do parks, and parks can speak more to this, right? There's usually, I forget what they call them exactly, but those signs that are placed within spaces or green spaces. So, that would, parks would work on that, and we would probably get some community input into that, but that could be a space and where, discussions around theme and history of the site could be, laid out so that visitors to the park can look at, when they go to that board, they can, read or see visuals or maps, whatever, parks needs it to be.
Well, I
And
think
then-
as well, oh, sorry.
No, and I was just going to add to your point of Dykeman Houses, that is definitely, if not one of our biggest stakeholders, top two. And we definitely want to make sure that we're not just hosting events there, but also tabling, whether it's in their lobby, whether it's an event that they have, to make sure that we're getting average, what I call average day folks, right? People who are just walking in and out, who live in the building, who may not go to these events for various reasons. So want to make sure that we're capturing them. And we've also been in discussions about a survey, because I know that sometimes we have trouble, people might have, that date might not work for them or so forth. So maybe having a survey that we could either have hard copies or have both online and hard copies to get people's input as well.
The Parks Department has, as you may have heard me announce earlier with the Lily Brown Playground, the way their capital process works is they'll have a public scoping meeting, and then there's a portal on their capital projects page that allows for community engagement and for people to type in, things that for people who were at the meeting and they had something that they forgot to mention, or for people who weren't at the meeting, they knew about it, but they couldn't go, or for people who found out about it later. So, and that's typically open for 2 weeks following the public session. So that's a really good way to boost community engagement for people who, for whatever reason, cannot attend. I just noticed in the slide that we're looking at, Nagle Avenue is spelled Nagle, not Nagal. So you might want to fix that. It's totally okay.
Liz, to your point about the project portal, what we do at EDC for all of our projects is we create a web page for it. So on our EDC website, we'll have we're going to be working to build that out in the next couple of weeks. So we'll have an Academy Street and North Cove website, and on the website we'll have images, we'll have information about the project. We'll also any presentation. So this presentation will probably go up on there. Any presentations that we use for the info meeting or for the visioning sessions, we tend to put all of that information there. So even if you can't attend, you can, click on the, download the PDF version of the slides, any survey we put up on there, and any date. So we usually, kind of a calendar so you can see what's going on, you can register. So we'll have a web portal, which we're building out now, and we'll share that as soon as we have that. And that's a way for people to just, see what's happening, but also provide input, on their own time.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So I want to I think we're kind of at the towards the end. By way of wrap up, I do just want to circle back to Bob's point and just remind you all that there is an incredibly long and rich history of in recreational engagement with the water on both sides of the island at the tip of Manhattan. Lots of row houses, lots of boat houses, lots of ferries to New Jersey, lots and lots and lots of that. So any argument that says, there's already one of these here, so we don't need to do that, isn't really gonna, pardon the pun, hold water, because you could build 5 times more of what you're even contemplating, and it would be less than was available to a population that was half the size 150 years ago. So it's not possible to have enough.
Okay, good to know.
Whether it's fishing, whether it's boating, whether it's, and for environmental reasons, it may not be practical or doable to have a long ramp or access, but it may be practical and doable to have something like the very modest, canoe put in and kayak put in, such as is on the Street End Park at 200, I think it's the one on 202nd or 203rd Street.
Yeah.
Other things that you're likely to hear, and the community can talk more about that on March 15th. There are going to be folks who want like barbecuing. That's probably not going to be very well supported in this space. But it may come up.
Liz, I'm interested to hear, why would you say not well supported? Because it seems like
I don't know how much, it's not clear to me how much space you have. I mean, maybe there is over on the western portion along 10th Avenue.
Well, I mean, yeah, we have this whole site I mean, from our point of view, it seems like barbecuing would be a good use, picnicking and stuff, because you're not really close to any residential projects. This could be a street, a park that has fairly active or noisy events, because you don't really have any neighbors like out here. So
yeah, because the barbecuing facility at the street end park at 204th or 5th Street, very heavily used, much beloved, and the biggest piece of feedback that I get about that is, why don't we have more of this? So just, one of the things that's interesting about being the person who's at these meetings 10 months a year for, I can't believe I'm going to say this, 2 decades. I mean, I've literally been doing this a long time. There are certain things that you just kind of hear, and not from people who are the same old people who show up, not from the institutional people who have a very particular, I don't want to say agenda, but a very particular mission or focus, but just the everyday people who show up at a meeting and then we don't see them again ever, or we don't see them again for several years. We hear waterfront access, fishing, stuff to look at, ways of engaging with the water, getting into the water, barbecuing, active recreation.
Yeah, good to know. I mean, and I also think, speaking to Bob's idea of a theme, that the other thing that we're very aware of is just sort of the cultural history of the site and how these sites reflect the culture of the neighborhood. So, if that culture is something that includes barbecuing, which I think it probably does, then why would we not want to have barbecuing if that's something that, yeah, so, to have that respect for what people want to do on the site here.
That's great to hear. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. This has been super informative. I see Domingo's got a hand up.
Yeah, so I see that there's a building there, and Liz, it's always good to ask, does a community center fit in there? Because that's usually what, when there's new constructions, it gives us the ability to add and stuff that the community's been actually wanting for years now, or decades, so
where are you pointing to? A building?
To the Con Edison building. It seems like, is that going to be removed, or is that staying there?
No. Our site is just the yellow area. This is
okay,
the huge Con Ed substation. Yeah,
Disregard.
Unfortunately,
I'm just trying to dream.
I mean, they could remove it, but then we'd all be like, using our phones and candlelight, because
No, you know what? No, you know what I confused it with, Liz? That little aquatics house that's back there.
Oh yeah. No, that's the boathouse. Totally different thing. Anyway, let's. It's 7:56, and I want to be mindful of people's times, and I see that we've got Avi Gittler, who's ready to present on his project. So I am excited about this March 15th meeting. I'm putting it in my calendar, and looking forward to getting the.
Well, we really want to thank you for your enthusiasm on this as well. So it's going to be great working with all of you guys and, moving this forward. We're excited to get this going and hope to see you again soon.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you.
Thanks.
All right. Next up, we have Avi Gittler, and I am very excited about, we have 2 Avis.
It's okay. The other one is work, an artist who will present sort of towards the end of my presentation.
If you can change your name, and just in general, it makes it a lot easier we go by attendance based on how people sign in, and that's why we gave you your own panelist login. That's how we know that you were here.
I know. Apologies, Liz, and to everybody else. I don't know if we can fix it in time. And yeah, since it is getting late, I just thought
Yeah,
I'd.
well, if you could just, if whoever you are who's not you, if you could rename yourself, please, so that we don't call you Avi. Hover your cursor over the name, over you'll see, if you hover your cursor in the upper right corner, you'll see a blue box with 3 dots. Click on that, and one of the options at the bottom of the box is going to be rename. Click rename and type in your name.
I was
So,
able to do
Avi,
it.
fantastic, yay. So Audubon Mural Project, anybody who lives in the southern end of the district has seen lots and lots of just wonderful big murals, small installations. We've got a mosaic, we've got birds, and there are many things that make this neighborhood special. This is one of them, and I'm super excited to hear what the real Avi Gittler has in store for us.
Yeah, if I can figure out a tech issue on my own without help, it means it's doable for anybody. And before I begin, I just want to say everybody loves barbecuing, so one raised hand for barbecue stations. So Audubon Mural Project, we're about 8.5 years in now. I'm not going to give a whole background. I thought I would talk a little bit about past, present, and future today. So just a little bit of an update to show a few of the things, just a selection of some of the installations we've done in 2022. You have this small pine warbler installation, which is really on the northern end of where we've been operating, up on 185th Street. There's sort of a better shot. I really love these kinds of smaller spaces, that we've done in alcoves that aren't necessarily in the best condition. This is a large scale mural that we completed recently with an artist, Andre Trenier, at 145th Street. There's a bunch of scaffolding on the adjacent building, so it was hard for us to get really an outstanding photo, though on this one, I will just point out that the branch on which the sort of largest bird is perched really does look like it's extending from that tree, which I love. It's like a beautiful example of trompe-l'oeil art. So even though it's not kind of the best photo, it's actually a really cool photo in some ways, and it's a wonderful film mural from Andre. Couple of examples, and you can see how spread out the project is at this point. When we first started, we really wanted to concentrate everything in a smaller area so that people could walk from one to the next, and it's growing and growing and growing. I mean, the first one was on 185th. The last one that I showed was on 145th, and then these two are in the 160s. Sam Medina's Goldfinch at 169th, and Mike Fernandez's Snowy Owl at 162nd. And then just the last example I'll give you of some 2022 work we did uptown on St. Nick, a little bit north of 145th. You have Jesus Medina's Long-Tailed Jaeger on a roll down gate. We've expanded the project. We had done murals in Queens. This is our first Brooklyn mural, just to kind of give everyone a sense of this project, which was, born in Harlem, Hamilton Heights, Washington Heights, et cetera, born uptown, but sort of spreading its wings. So this is an extraordinary mural painted in Williamsburg by an artist, Mantra. And on that note, the project continues to spread. In our project, we're painting climate species North American birds, but I didn't add any photos, but they're actually what they call les murs de Audubon walls, sort of all over Europe, which is very interesting. And those are climate threatened birds in those particular countries. And maybe on another visit, I can show some images, which brings me to present and future. So anybody that's spent more than, 30 seconds in Washington Heights knows this wall. And in every meeting I've had with my colleagues, not all of whom are from uptown or live uptown, I sort of explain the importance, and like the hair stands up on my arms just saying it, of this particular wall. And what I say to them is, like, literally the bulletin board, the community bulletin board is on this wall, and this wall is like right at the heart of I don't need to explain to this group of people what this wall is and what it means. And so I've been thinking my colleagues and I have been thinking for the last, 6-7 years about this wall. We feel strongly that we should be doing a mosaic. And on that note, just a little bit of background for those who don't know, this is a mosaic we did 163rd Street. And I know Liz, like many other people, helped with the project by adhering a tile, 2 tiles, 3 tiles. So this was a really wonderful project of which, we're very proud on 163rd. We do actually have another mosaic, the artist Jessica Maffei on the left picture, the artist Jessica Maffei on the right, and Yumi Rodriguez, who's a participating artist who also works with me on the project, on the left, helping her collect glass in the aforementioned Highbridge Park. And then Jessica brought it back to her studio and cleaned the glass and created our first non-representational installation. It's 2 spectrograms, which are the visual representation of the bird's song. And there is actually a plaque. We've always put our URL for people to find more information, but we felt we needed a plaque to explain what people are looking at. So there's a plaque in both English and Spanish adjacent to this installation on 173rd. So, getting back to the wall, we felt really strongly that we wanted to mosaic. We're really in the preliminary stages here. We've raised a little bit of money for a potential mosaic. We don't have a definitive artist, but just to give the community board a sense, the sort of artist we have in mind is someone like Manny Vega. Ultimately, it would be a dream to work with Manny Vega, who's done subway installations in East Harlem and a whole bunch of installations all over the city and the world. And I think a lot in his native Puerto Rico. Here is a mosaic of him in front of Pio Puente. And here are a series of images of some of his work in subway stations and in other places. We really feel like Manny could realize, the fullest vision that wall and that block and the neighborhood deserves. Something that, yes, features climate threatened birds, but sort of touches on everything that makes the neighborhood amazing. So, we're in the early stages. The way I see it actually happening is if we can raise more money and if we can get Manny on board, if we can find an opening in his schedule, we really hope that Manny is someone we'll be able to work with. Manny did actually make a few sample birds for us. These were like very quick. But here's an example of one of the birds that he made, just like kind of getting it done really quickly so we could show people what an example of some of his work is. And I mean, the finished work is more nuanced. So, I joined today really to show a couple sites. This was one of them. And the other is, sorry, I'm just having a little bit of trouble with my Zoom. The other site is this large scale wall at 162nd and Broadway. I've been talking with the landlord who actually approached us a few years ago. We've been thinking about this wall for a few years. They are, for those who are very nostalgic about the Tuck It Away advertisement, which I was told by the owner is not as old as one might think it is. And I do find it somewhat charming. It is going to be painted over. They are going to do basic repointing at some point soon. And they are going to paint over it. So I just want to, that's my understanding. I shouldn't speak for that landlord about that particular project in this forum, but that is our understanding. So for those who are emotionally attached to that old advertisement, I just want to make clear that that advertisement is going to go away. On this note, we have raised money to take on this project, and we have an artist in mind, or really 2 artists, and those are, Gira Lozano and her partner Work, who are on the call. I don't know if Work is still listed as Avi, but it should say Work at this point.
Nope, he's listed as Work.
Okay, great. Gira previously participated in the project by painting this large scale mural of a hooded warbler on 147th Street. And I wanted to show some samples of some of their collaborative work sort of all over. So I'll show you a few examples of their very bold and extraordinary work. I mean, in my mind, they are among the best in the world at what they do. Work will chime in, but I believe this is in Newark. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know where every single one of these murals are. And
Sorry,
to give you a
did
sense,
say it's in Newark?
Newark, New Jersey. Yes, I believe that this particular one is in.
Shame.
Work will chime in a minute and correct me on anything that I'm wrong about. So you can see a little bit more of their work, and to give a sense of scale, you can see them standing at the bottom of that particular mural. And here's another one, and again, here's our wall. And my next and final slide, and then I'll turn it over to Work to talk a little bit about his ideas and the symbolism, and what he was thinking in his design for this wall, potentially is for this wall. Sorry, it's right here. And so I will turn it to Work and let him talk a little bit about this draft, this concept that we are proposing for feedback. And so I will mute myself and let Work talk a little bit about what you are looking at.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us here on behalf of my partner, Jara Lozano, and myself. Jara couldn't join us today, but yeah, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about this particular design, which I'm very excited about. And thank you, Avi, for the wonderful introduction. And so this particular design is centered around the Aplomado falcon. It's one of the falcons, one of the there's several types of falcons. This one in particular is a migratory bird that comes from Central and even South America, and it comes all the way up north into the southwestern United States. And so I grew up in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, and El Paso, Texas. So, I'm very familiar with the landscape, and, I'm kind of, a fan of birds, I guess you could say. So I am a little bit familiar with the birds, and in particular with this project, I did a lot more research about the Aplomado falcon. And so the design, going from below begins with a type of agave plant that's indigenous to the Chihuahuan desert. And from there, these hands come out, which are mudras, which represent the crown chakra. And then there's many layers of falcons happening here. At the forefront, there's a pair of falcons that have eyes embedded in them. To speak a little bit about, the symbology of falcons, and not only falcons, but also like hawks and eagles, right? They symbolize a higher perspective. They have this kind of deep spiritual power within a lot of different cultures throughout the world. And as it recesses, we see another pair of heads of the falcons, and then in the rear we see a sculptural piece. It's an effigy from the Egyptian culture, which also features a falcon. I particularly think that it's an Aplomado falcon, but of course that's open to discussion. And as we rise from the hands into the center, in the center we see kind of like this heart shape, but it's actually the center of another type of cactus that is found in the Chihuahuan desert. But if you look at it as if you were looking at it from like a bird's eye view. And so it has this very kind of special geometry, and it gives this kind of a heart shape. And as you keep rising, there's another set of hands, another mudra, which is a pineal gland mudra. It creates another type of heart shape. And then it rises into a design that is symbolic of the sun, right? So it's like a circle, and there's radiating kind of pattern that comes out, and it's all set within this pattern that my partner Gerald Lozano created as a tribute to the land and the indigenous people that are in those areas. The bird does travel through the unceded lands of the Omano, the Manso, the Tigua, Apache, and Comanche tribes. So it does go actually through a very large space. And let me see what else. And so, yeah, it's just a playful design that really brings attention to the Aplomalo falcon, right? But also is very multi-layered, not only in the design, but in its symbology and going across cultures. So, something that I think is also very kind of unique here to New York City, right? We have this multi-dimensional, multicultural space. And so, we really wanted to kind of embody that and transmit, that kind of love and powerful kind of energy that these birds kind of provide for us.
This is beautiful. So this would be proposed, this is what would go is proposed to go in that space. Oh my God, I'm so happy.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. So, we're in the planning stages. We have a design in mind, which we want to present for feedback, to see if there are any thoughts from this group first. And then, yeah, I mean, the goal would be, if we feel like, there's a consensus around this project, this design, et cetera, then, we hope to execute it in 2023. I won't say a month. The one difference between this project and anything we've done before, not to get into the nitty-gritty of every detail, is that it would actually be painted on a special material called parachute cloth,
and then installed.
And it would be adhered. And this is what they use in some of the best projects. It's actually much more weather resistant. It's better, for fading. It's a little bit less romantic, I would say, not to go off, just because work won't be on the scaffold with paint, but he will paint it in his studio and then adhere it, on an aerial scaffold. So,
I love this. So in the interest of time, can you give me, and because we have one other agenda item and I'm hoping to end it by 8:30. What is is there anybody who doesn't love this? I mean, it's not up to me, but seriously, is there anybody who thinks anything other than we can't get this in our community fast enough? I'm looking at there are a couple of comments in the chat that, people really love this design. It's, there's a lot of mural art, and even bad mural art is nice because it's better than looking at, graffiti or just a boring side of the building, but some murals are better than others. And this is complicated and interesting. And I love all of your murals, but this is a whole other thing.
Yeah, this would be really incredible. And, we're happy, if anybody for whatever reason doesn't feel comfortable, to be forthright, here in this forum, they're welcome to reach out to me with more comments, et cetera, but we're very excited about this possibility. So, we wanted to see what you would think. I do want to add just one thing, not to end this, in case anybody still wants to chat about this particular design, but one thing I didn't mention is, COVID has changed things vis-a-vis QR codes, and QR codes are something that we didn't do when this project started. But we have started to install QR codes. We've experimented it with satellite murals like that one in Brooklyn. So there's a QR code next to it and people can scan it and they can end up on a web page with a lot more information. And so this is a great example, like given everything Work was talking about, where when we do this on the actual ground, there would be a QR code for people to scan where they could hear more information and hopefully Work and other experts talking about a whole variety of issues, So, we hope that we can actually engage the passerby better than we have up to now. And ideally, as much of the content as possible would be in both English and Spanish.
That's great. So I'm not seeing, oh, wait, we got a question from Daryl. What you got?
Yeah, quick question. If someone wanted to suggest a space or offer a space, what's the best way to do that?
Liz knows how to find me. I will drop my email in the chat. But yeah, we're always looking for spaces. I mean, Work, I'm surprised he's not nodding, but he knows like spaces are gold for us. They're better than gold. So yeah, that would be great if you have a space in mind, whether it's just a space that you think that we should do something on, or it's a space where you and people can actually give us permission to paint on. That would be terrific. I'll drop my email in the chat.
Great, thanks. I just want to talk briefly about the 187th Street space. Did you
want me to go back to that?
Yeah, have you? I mean, I'm very familiar with that space. It was the organization that I founded that is the one that installed the original bulletin board there and sort of was the steward of that space to keep it nice. So there's some question. Have you been talking with the building owner? You've got permission. There aren't any questions about if that building is coming down or being sold or what have you?
We're trying to suss out what the story is with that building because, I've heard a rumor that maybe it's going to come down at some point. As far as we're concerned, if it really does seem like the building would come down in 5 years, we would still want to do a mosaic, but we probably wouldn't cover every square inch. With a mosaic, it'd probably be something where there's a bird, there's a this, there's a that, we would probably do something that isn't going to cost us $50,000 or more to execute, something that's a little bit more low key. We're in talks with the owner. I think, if there's enthusiasm, I think we can convince the owner. I think he's going to really want to have a sense of what we're doing. So it's one of these things where everything is kind of relying on everything else, but we are in talks. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Keep us posted. Let us know if there's anything that we can do to support that, because that wall cries out for a mural. There used to be a mural there.
Yeah.
It was not the highest art, but it was kind of cheerful and more fun than a blank wall.
Yeah, I think a mosaic is what it deserves. So hopefully, if you have any other questions, we're here. And if not, thank you so much for your time and Work. Thank you for joining.
Super. Thank you. And thank you, Work. Really appreciate it. It's beautiful. Can't wait.
Thank you, Liz.
All right. And next up, rounding us out at 8:21, we got Mike Fiddleson from the United Palace. He's going to give us an update on some of what's going on at the United Palace, and I'm wondering, have the Tonys made you crazy yet?
Not yet, although I just found out I got another walkthrough with them tomorrow. Hey everyone, Mike Fiddleson. I am now the CEO of the United Palace family of organizations. We've had a lot of restructuring, a lot of changes over the past year. I want to update folks where we are. I'm assuming my share screen is working.
Yes.
All right, let's see what happens.
Did you just say you're the CEO?
Yes, I am now the CEO.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's been a long way since I think I walked in. I think I was like Chief Doofus or something like that. So I've come a long way. And speaking of walking in, I've been here for 11 years, and I just wanted to walk you through all the different alphabet soup of organizations we've had to give you an idea of sort of how exciting it is to be where we are now. The building itself has been known as the United Palace since the 1970s. Before that, it was the Lowe's 175th Street Theater. That's unchanged. The United Palace, everyone knows what the building is called, usually. Inside of it, the spiritual organization, the mothership, has been known in my time as United Palace Cathedral, United Christian Evangelistic Association, Inspirational Ministries at United Palace House of Inspiration, primarily at the time because they wanted the acronym to be Up High, which was very cute, and now currently the United Palace of Spiritual Arts. The commercial operations, the booking, the event staffing, we have a concert going on right now, so apologies if it gets loud or my radio starts going off. The commercial operations have been known as the United Palace Theater, United Palace Publishing, United Palace LLC, which currently does all the booking, and Max Sky, which does the staffing events, the staffing for the events. Max Sky, by the way, was a name invented by a former accountant whose children's names were Max and Sky. Very cute. And finally, the nonprofit arts organization, which started 11 years ago, which I am still the executive director of, which is what initially got me in the door, is the United Palace of Cultural Arts. It does the community arts programming, works with the NOMAs of the world, the Word Ups of the world, and so forth, and currently holds the liquor license, which will become part of the conversation in a second. We have currently taken all of that alphabet soup and we're boiling it down to 3 different entities. One of them, the building, the United Palace, unchanged. This is a mock-up of where we think the logo is heading. None of these logos are finito, but it gives you an idea of what we're thinking, the feeling behind each one. The mothership, which would replace United Palace of Spiritual Arts and all the others, which has been incorporated but is waiting for 501c3 status to be incorporated as an arts organization, will be called the United Palace, this is a mistake, for Arts and Culture. The acronym there is UPAC, which for folks in the performing arts world understand what a PAC is, a performing arts center. Oops. And finally, the commercial operation, which is incorporated and will begin taking over all commercial activities April 1st, is called United Palace Events. A little more succinct than Max Sky. Make sense so far? Yeah. United Palace Events, UPE, the for-profit entity, will be applying for a liquor license at the United Palace. Currently, a nonprofit holds the liquor license. We want the commercial arm to hold the liquor license. It's going to make a lot more sense. This will be, as far as operationally, this will be a seamless transfer from UPCA to UPE when the time comes, but we're going to go through the full process of applying once again. It took us, I think it was 14 months to get the license the first time around. So help me God, we'll cut that in half this time. UPAC's mission and vision are pretty much set. Do I need to read them out or do people have working eyeballs? Okay. We really created this mission and vision to dovetail with what we think the role of the United Palace is in this community, with this community, and for this community. We want to do a lot more of the smaller events, activities, programs that UPCA has kind of made a name for itself doing. And we really want to make sure that in doing that, we are working hand in hand with the community and bringing new people into the building, under the umbrella of the United Palace family of organizations, in order to keep building that, that sense of community, that sense of support, those networks of individuals to support the building. Domingo, do you want to ask a question now, or can you wait for like 2 more slides?
Oh no, I was actually raising it so I could ask at the end.
No, let's hold it to the end.
Yeah, that's what I said, Liz.
Yeah,
Till then.
cool.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, this is pretty quick. The new board of directors, well, the new and old board of UPAC Jose Roman, who's been on board for a little over a year now. Diana Caba, who many of you might remember from NOMA. Tony Lopez, who long-termers on the board should recognize as the former licensing committee chair, also is the franchisee owner of the UPS store at Broadway and Dyckman. Earl Folks, who has been a long-time buddy of Jose Roman and has served on, I think at last count, 50 different boards. So he really brings a board governance stature to this new board. Anna Ofelia Rodriguez, who was associated with Broadway Housing for years and years and years, former chief of staff of Guillermo Linares, the first Dominican-American elected to office in the United States, and Brian Rogers, who's been on the board for a number of years, who works for the Clinton Foundation, and will probably be the next person to roll off the board as we continue to build more of a local support group. That's sort of the background on the restructuring. We continue to move forward on all of that. I wanted to highlight the Attraction Box project, which we brought to the community board last fall, I believe. We are very close to unveiling them. We're going to do the public debut of them on February 27th. It would have been February 22nd, which was our 93rd anniversary, until at the last minute I realized I'm out of town. So we're going to postpone the party until Monday, February 22nd, 27th. Everyone is invited. And just to recap, this first attraction box here will now have a video monitor, a digital monitor in it, and that's going to be devoted to NOMA programming and by extension, the local arts organizations in the community. So they will have a revolving series of slides, of videos, what have you, sort of introducing themselves to passersby on Broadway. This box here will be United Palace related content. Again, videos still on a revolving carousel. This box is going to be a static illuminated box. That's the history of the United Palace in English. This box is also static. That'll be the history of the United Palace in Spanish. This box will be also United Palace content, pretty much identical to this, but just on the plaza side. You can't really see them both at the same time. And for me, this is about the most exciting box. This one's going to be devoted to community activities, events, calendars, what have you. So this is me, Mike Fiddleson, new CEO of the United Palace family of organizations, inviting the community to send us their content for this screen. Catherine, I'm not sure if you're still on from Morrisville Mansion. Haven't met you. We should probably talk. You're one of the institutions that we would love to have display an image on the outside of the theater. Community board, Liz, if you have upcoming agendas, you can format, you can send to us. We will display it. It'll be on a revolving cycle. I'm hoping automatically it'll disappear the day after the agenda is over. I think Papa already rolled off, but Steve, if you can deliver the message, it would be great to have, all of the different parks, a photograph from each park labeled that would cycle through, and upcoming parks events in the community. That's really what this is designed to do.
If you can send me this slide deck so that I can grab this information, because yeah, my guess is the trust and the Parks Department can probably put together some of that content at some point.
Yep, absolutely. I'll copy and paste it into an email for you, so it's not all PDF-y and whatnot. Okay. So with that, folks, knowing that we're just about out of time, Domingo, question?
Well, hold on, before Domingo goes, I do have a question that I'm a little perplexed about. So there's no longer a congregation, the church is gone?
That's something that we're in the process of working through with the Attorney General. That looks like the direction that we are heading in. Now, interesting word, congregation. That is a group of people who are congregating for a specific reason, right?
Fair point.
We are also exploring that in converting this organization from a church structure to a arts nonprofit structure, we're still looking for folks to be a community support group, local followers, donors, not unlike what a congregation is. So I think that it really is a matter of, you know, what the overall purpose is, what the attraction is to the space. And I think that the idea of us, it's a whole nother preamble that I'll give you later on. But yes, it looks like the church will be sunset if the powers that be in Albany and elsewhere are so inclined to grant it.
I see. Okay, thank you. Domingo.
Congratulations on your new position, Mike. It's always great for, I'm a firm believer in organizational evolution. So congratulations on that as well. I'm more interested. So the United Palace, a nonprofit that usually dealt with the local, that's being phased out, and then the new nonprofit is going to be the arts and cultural of the United Palace, correct?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, cool.
And it gets a little semantic. United Palace of Cultural Art, PCA, will eventually go away as UPAC, United Palace of Arts and Culture, takes its place, takes over all that programming, but sort of in a more robust, mission-driven
okay, cool. Because and then we could go back to, because I first of all, I think I congratulate you on that effort, because I think that's what the community needs, and that you guys decided to address that need. Just for simple as like for organizations like the one I work for, who used to rent out the palace for Pack the Palace, and the district who does, how is that going to be formulated into UPAC? Do you know by any chance, or are you still working that out?
No, I can tell you exactly. UPCA, which has been here for 11 years, really created the model for how all of that interaction with the community works. So I think we're going to continue to do that. And I think you and I have talked about this in the past. One thing that we're working on, and Diana Cava is helping to develop, is we want to have some sort of, you know, I'm not going to go so far as to call it a community advisory board, but we want to have some sort of community input in what programming comes in. I wouldn't really call it a veto level, but certainly in a way of helping to shape what the overall cultural calendar of the United Palace looks like. Now, and again, we're separating commercial and nonprofit. We're going to need to continue to rent the space, and that's all UPE. But UPAC will be the one that's continuing to deal with, you know, District 6 or Word Up or Dance Project, what have you.
Thank you so much, and congratulations again.
This is amazing. Steve.
I just want to say, first of all, I'm speaking now in my role as a civilian, as a member of the community board. To me, this is a very exciting transformation. It's something that
Sorry to interrupt, Steve, but since can you ditch the screen share so that we can see each other? Perfect. Thanks. Back to you, Steve.
All right, I just want to say, as a member of the community, I think of this as being a very exciting transformation, as something that I long thought this building should really serve as a true nonprofit on behalf of the community, and break its links to the to its past. So I'm very happy to see this happening. But I'm still curious, and I think I've raised this question in the past, about how this will remain, I guess, owned by a nonprofit and will be a tax exempt property. But how does it work when you're doing all of these commercial bookings? Is there still some property tax that's being paid to the city in view of the fact that it's being used for commercial purposes to some extent?
Yeah, that's one of the questions that our lawyers are working out very carefully with everybody else. I can't give you a solid answer on that because it hasn't been settled yet. There's a couple of different models, and we're not sure what's going to apply to us going forward.
All right, well, I would think that there would be.
Certainly, so that's speaking specifically from a property tax standpoint.
Yes, exactly, yes.
Yeah, from a property tax standpoint, I can't give you an answer because no one is quite settled on what the answer is. From a commercial standpoint, the operation, and from the liquor operation, those are both taxable entities.
Right.
Whatever comes out as profit at the end of the year is going to be taxed.
Right, but I would think that they would have to calculate some share of the property tax would still, some share of the property tax would still have to be paid in view of the commercial uses. I believe there's precedent for that, but and I would hope that would be the case here. But congratulations, I think this is a major step forward.
Appreciate it, Steve.
And now putting on my Parks Department hat, I definitely have stuff I can send you. We have a job fair coming up on March 4th. I would love to see that advertised in one of those boxes.
That sounds great.
I also want to say that I really appreciate that you are having your job fair on the only date that is a complete sentence. March 4th.
March 4th. Okay, very good. Yes.
Hi, I'll be your grammar nerd this evening.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a super exciting development, and I know, Mike, you have contact information for and a relationship with Ebenezer Smith, and he can get you whatever are the agendas, the public notices, and what have you. But I will also give him a heads up that this is coming and this is going live soon. Super exciting.
Terrific. Yeah, it's it's been a long time coming.
I do also want to add, in terms of the liquor license, part of it's so unusual. I mean, I'm not on that committee, but I think part of the issue is it's very, one of the things that we deal with a lot as a board is wanting to make sure that there aren't liquor licenses that are being granted that are too close to churches. So I think, and we're so hardwired to, you can't have a liquor license too close to a church, that a lot of people didn't quite know what to do with the fact that it was the church that was applying for the liquor license. So I think now that you have a track record as a licensee, and there haven't been, any of the kinds of issues that tend to make community boards shy away from approving these kinds of licenses, and given that it may be by the time this other corporate entity applies for the license, there will no longer be a church there. I'm guessing that this is not going to be as tedious a process as it was in the past. I don't know. It's not my committee. It's not for me to say, but I'm guessing this is going to be easier the second time around. Inshallah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And I think Mike addressed a lot of those because I was part of one of those meetings.
Yeah.
He actually came through and came with the worker stats, and a lot of it that was a lot of people were unfamiliar to a lot of the operations that were.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think there aren't any other questions. This has been a super informative presentation. Lots of good news. Pretty informative meeting, and I don't think we really have old business. I do have a very quick question for Steve, and that is the Fort Washington Park bench and path something or other. That was a project that is a couple of months old, like a year old. I'm just wondering if we are going to actually get a presentation on that anytime soon, or should I just take it off the agenda, my to-do list?
Yeah, I would. It's been put off indefinitely, so
okay.
I would take it off your list.
Okay, sounds good. Well, in that case, Daryl, you get to have the last word.
Oh, I don't know about that, but yeah, and forgive me again, I'm just rejoining this committee after a while. I was wondering, I guess it's old business, about the renaming of Bennett Park.
Yeah, we have not really done that. Has been on hold for a while because we're still waiting sort of hear back from folks at the Lenape Center on, what would be some of the most appropriate things to do. So we had a bit of a conversation, and that kind of got paused, and I keep it on the agenda under old business so that we can not forget it. But nothing has been done with it, and thank you for the nudge.
Thanks.
Cool. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I so moved.
Second.
Excellent. Second. All right. Well, thank you very much. We've got Domingo adjourn, and any objection? I guess not. So I will see you next time. And please help spread the word about the March 15th informational sessions on the 2 new parks up at the North Cove and Academy Street. Thanks so much. Night.
Good night. Thank you. Happy Valentine's.